Boa tarde a todos e bem-vindos aqui ao nosso webinar dedicado ao Património Cultural Subaquático. Vamos falar de valorização, de participação social e de turismo cultural. Os nossos objetivos hoje são abordar, portanto, a gestão, a salvaguarda e a valorização do património cultural subaquático, e para isso vamos fazê-lo com a apresentação de alguns projetos, de alguns estudos de caso, de diferentes contextos europeus. Vamos ter uma participação italiana, outra de Espanha, mas que foca um pouco toda a área atlântica, e uma participação dos nossos colegas dos Açores. E nesse sentido agradeço desde já a disponibilidade dos nossos colegas, dos oradores, para estarem hoje aqui presentes e para partilharem connosco os conhecimentos e as suas experiências que nos vão permitir debater estas questões relacionadas com a participação social e o acesso público ao património arqueológico subaquático, e também a importância que o turismo de mergulho e o turismo cultural têm para a valorização do património cultural subaquático. Passava a palavra à professora Antónia Fialho Conde, se ela ainda estiver aqui entre nós. Penso que não, talvez possa regressar. Diz-me a Mariana que a energia da universidade parece que foi abaixo. Portanto, vamos, enfim, a professora Antónia estava aqui para dar as boas-vindas a todos em nome da direção do CIDEHUS, que é o Centro Interdisciplinar de História, Culturas e Sociedades da Universidade de Évora, ao qual eu pertenço e a partir do qual organizámos este webinar, e é coordenadora do Grupo de Investigação em Património, Literacia e Diversidade Cultural. Posto isto, uma vez que ela não vai conseguir regressar, vamos prosseguir para as nossas apresentações, as nossas comunicações. So let's proceed to the presentations. I ask you all to, if you have questions, leave it at the chat, ou no português do Brasil, no bate-papo, para que no final possamos debater. Once again, I thank you to my colleagues for being here today with us. And let's start with the presentation of Bárbara David. Bárbara David is Superintendente da Superintendência Nacional de Património Cultural Subaquático, it's based in Taranto, in the south of Italy. She's a member of the Scientific and Technical Advisory Body of the UNESCO Convention for the Protection of Underwater Cultural Heritage. Between 2011 and 2020, she was director of the Núcleo de Intervento de Arqueologia Subaca. And since 2017, she was collaborating with the Instituto Central de Arqueologia of MIBAC. Since 2018, she was being a member of the Italian Archaeological School of Athens, and she was being a professor of underwater archaeology at the University degli Studi Roma III since 2010. She coordinates numerous national and international projects in the area of conservation and protection of underwater cultural heritage, which she will tell us about next. Thank you, Barbara. The floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Sonia. Thank you for this invitation. It's a pleasure for me to share with you some news about two projects that I conduct in this period. And can you hear me well? And can you see the screen? Okay, I can start. Before to start to speak about underwater digital parks, new technologies to protect and monitoring and enhance access to underwater cultural heritage, I'd like to present to you this new institute of the Italian Ministry of Culture. The National Superintendency for Underwater Cultural Heritage is new, started its activities last December, and I am the director. This institute has the goal, the scope to coordinate underwater cultural heritage in Italy, together with the local superintendency, and is involved in the maritime spatial planning, together with all the ministry involved in the control of the sea at different manner. And as you can imagine, this institute has have to control and carry out the cataloging of underwater cultural heritage in GIS, national GIS. We have the Carta del Rischio GIS, the Vicoli in Rete GIS, and the Geoportale per l'Archeologia, three big GIS in which also the underwater cultural heritage sites are scheduled, and we have to improve this GIS in the future. So this is one of our very important part of activity. And we work also together the UNESCO for UNESCO Commission for Underwater Cultural Heritage in some foreign activities, and we are involved as other countries of the Mediterranean in the cooperation in international water in the project the protection of the Skerky banks. Moreover, we are involved in a Blue Med Plus project, the first European project funded recently, that started just the beginning of June. The Blue Med Plus project is devoted to capitalization by transferring the new Med territories, the Blue Med multidisciplinary model for sustainable and responsible coastal tourism development. You can see here in the slide the partner of this project, and we are strictly connected with the Blue Med project that is finished just 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago. Plan, test, and coordinate underwater museum, diving parks, and knowledge awareness centers in order to support sustainable and responsible tourist development and promote blue growth in coastal area and island in the Mediterranean. I were a partner with the Central Institute for Restoration in the Blue Med project, and now with the new superintendency, we are going to be involved in the capitalization of the data and of the good practices that we have carried out in the Blue Med project. I have a video to show you about Blue Med. Its main objectives are benchmark, adapt, and harmonize regional strategies, plans, and action concerning tourism valorization of underwater natural and cultural heritage. Study, plan, and test the sustainable, responsible, and innovative management, financing, and networking instrument at pilot site in Mediterranean area. You can see Baia and the wreck of sarcophagus in San Pietro in Bevagna near Taranto, and Baia again, in which we have done a restoration of underwater cultural heritage directly in situ. Another goal of the project was to support the protection and conservation of underwater natural and cultural heritage and promote such sites located in Mediterranean area in a unified manner by networking site and by creating an underwater natural and cultural route in the Mediterranean thematic itinerary and campaign. Here you can see some activities of restoration in the Marine Park of Baie, conducted by the Central Institute for Restoration, and the enhancing the visit underwater using tablet that I'm going to show you also in another project. Here you will understand how it's important to open to the public the underwater cultural heritage and how is important to build links between archaeological sites, between institutions, enhancing of underwater cultural heritage. Well, I've just presented you the Bloomed project and the Bloomed Plus project. And now I'd like to show you another project called MUSAS, a Museum of Underwater Archaeology, that started under my direction in 2017, funded by the Ministry of Culture, the Italian Ministry of Culture. Its aim is to develop and integrate a supraregional model to monitor and enhance underwater archaeological heritage in museum as well as in situ, in order to develop best practices that can be extended and exploited at other sites. It has three specific objectives: the creation of a web portal for the Museum of Underwater Archaeology, the Virtual Museum of Underwater Archaeology, where annotated images and 3D models will illustrate artifacts recovered from submerged sites and now housed in museums. And then here you can see the Museum of Baie reconstructed in a 3D model that people underwater also can see on the tablet. And the implementation of an advanced exploration system of the submerged archaeological site of Baie and Egnace. Egnace is a Roman port in south of Italy, near Taranto. Here you can see the virtual museum. The 3D models in Baie and other archaeological. And we can present to people that don't dive the underwater cultural heritage, and we can open to this type of public the sea. Thanks to the augmented reality and particular sorry, I can stop here. And with some screen, with augmented reality, and in the museum. But the very interesting activities that we have done in this project, in the Musas project, was the use of internet underwater to open to the public underwater cultural heritage. Connecting the submerged world is a true possibility today, thanks to the Internet of Things technologies and the protocol and systems enabling their application to underwater world. And that possibility can be also true for the archaeological finds scattered in the seabed. Those finds are peers that humanity needs to protect and enjoy both on side and from the outside. It is an important human heritage. So the objective of Musas as part of a project, scientific project conducted together with two spin-off of one of the University of Sapienza, Busens, and one of the University of Calabria, 3D Research. Together, we are providing an underwater wireless infrastructure connecting the submarine site of Baie and Ignazia in Italy. This work has enabled the project team to monitor, study, and reconstruct the elements of this site so that they can be enjoyed in an augmented way by archaeologists and visitors from inside and remotely.
A comunicação que se segue é da nossa colega Carlota Pera da Berta, Manhãs, que é arqueóloga subaquática e doutorada em arqueologia marítima pela Universidade de Cádiz. Como historiadora e arqueóloga, participou em diversas escavações e projetos de investigação, embora tenha trabalhado principalmente na área da gestão e da divulgação do património. Desenvolveu um toolkit de turismo para o património cultural marítimo e subaquático europeu, no âmbito do projeto do qual nos vai falar, o projeto TIDE, que é Atlantic Network for Developing Historical Maritime Tourism. E como investigadora da Universidade de Cádiz, está atualmente envolvida em vários projetos que visam tornar o património cultural subaquático mais acessível ao público. Ok, Carlota, por favor.
Okay.
Avança. E obrigada pela tua vida.
Thank you very much, Sonia. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the invitation. I don't have any videos. I'm very sad to step over Barbara's presentation, which was very interesting, but these things happen. So anyway, thank you very much for having me here, and thank you to the University of Évora, of course, for this opportunity to share my work. I put the title in Spanish, despite I'm going to speak in English because I sent the title in Spanish, I'm sorry. Underwater archaeology, social participation and touristic activation of underwater cultural heritage, the TIDE project. TIDE project is, TIDE project is an Interreg project, is similar to the one that Barbara was explaining. It's committed to the blue economy principles now in the European Union, and seeks for a sustainable and responsible development of touristic products based on underwater cultural heritage and maritime heritage. It also seeks to promote the use of virtual reality and augmented reality to enrich visitor experiences. And the framework we are working in is focused in the Napoleonic era, the Spanish Armadas, the World Wars, and the Atlantic migrations. As an Interreg project, we have many partners from different regions on the Atlantic area, Derry, Donegal, Devon, These are in Ireland and England. Then we have Claarte, which is a company specialized in new technology from France. Cantabria in the north of Spain, Cádiz, here, University of Cádiz in the south of Spain, and also Madeira in Portugal. The lead partner is Ernact from Ireland. So the base of our project was, let's say, my PhD work. We all know that there are a lot of benefits when heritage and tourism have a balanced relationship, but we know that there are also a lot of risks in this when this relationship is not balanced. So the first step was to do a huge research on libraries and through scientific knowledge in articles and journals, and also by analyzing some case studies. With all this information, considering what works best, what is not working, the risks, the benefits, how to minimize the risk, everything, I made some kind of draft of guidelines, and I submitted to the evaluation of expert committee inside the project. This committee is composed by experts from the tourist sector and also the heritage sector, from history, archaeology, and underwater archaeology, from different countries. And that was very interesting because we don't see heritage in the same way, for instance, as people from England or Ireland. And that was very, very much enriching for the project, this space of debate. Then with this feedback, we made this final proposal, which is a frame for all of us to work inside this project. And also with this, we made this tourism toolkit that is available in our website. And it seeks to help people from the touristic sector to develop not touristic products, but the cultural part of the products, to develop the experience. With these guidelines, we are in each region developing our own pilot projects to test if what we are doing works or not. And we have established some key performance indicators to evaluate the heritage impact and also the social impact. When we are now in the stage of developing the pilot, not yet implementing them. So when we have all the results, we hope to be able to feed again the research and keep moving in this subject. So as I was saying, here in the University of Cádiz, we have 3 outcomes: the toolkit, which was the first step, then our own pilot experiences, which I will explain now, and a shared pilot that we are developing with France, Madeira, and Cantabria in the north of Spain. You have Cádiz in the map in case you are not aware of where we are. Regarding the pilot experiences, as you can see, I have here a note that says Heracles project. That's because in the university, we are focusing all our projects in the same area, which is this one with the red dot, not the heart is Cádiz, the red dot, and it's Algeciras Bay. Why? Because we want to see not only if the things that we do are working or not, if people is interested or not, we want to see if we generate some real social impact. We cannot say that Algeciras is a highly economical depressed area, but certainly they can appreciate a boost. So that's what we are doing. We are trying to converge all our activities here. So 2 of the pilot experiences are done with the help of another project, which is this one, the Heracles project. The first thing is that we are going to establish some underwater trails for non-professional divers with educational purposes to raise awareness among divers with educational formation and following the UNESCO guidelines, of course. These are going to be in metal shipwrecks, most of them steamboats, and classic thing with, a line in the bottom and some museographical elements put there also. A guided visit, probably by an archaeologist. And now we are evaluating the sites that we have in mind that can work for this matter. The second pilot experience that we want to develop is a dry dive experience with the Google headset. We want to make 360 degrees video, so you can be in the site with, it will be enriched with augmented reality. So it's more interactive than just a video. And it will be a shipwreck from the 18th century. The third thing we are working in is the underwater streaming with the help of engineers, of course. And our goal here, and this is an idea that we got from the BlueMed project, by the way, is to be able to stream real audio and video in real time to land. That will be to enrich our partners' experiences, but also we want it to be available for any educational institution, such as schools or universities. And it will also be displayed on the Algeciras Museum. How is it going to work? We will have underwater cameras and sensors, because we also want to use it to monitorize a site. So these cameras will gather the information and send it to a router that packages all the information and send it ashore, thanks to an omnidirectional antenna that is floating over the site. The data will be received and processed inland, and it can be displayed in real time to viewers. These are some of the elements. We have the support for the antenna, the buoy that it's mobile, but it's really heavy, and it's a bit big. So though it's good for our project, the next step, if everything goes well, would be to make it a bit smaller. Then we have the antenna and then the water camera. As you can see, it's all transparent, and it's the kind of camera that you can control from land and have all the movement. This is so you can see more or less the size of the equipment. We have tested all the equipment, transmission and reception of images, the power supply by solar panels, the testing of the cameras and sensors and the water. We have tested it with cables of 100 meters, the charge and discharge of the batteries, the distance for sending and receiving data, and we made a field test in a swimming pool. We hope this summer we can make the test already in the sea. And finally, we have this shared pilot among, I said, Cantabria, Cadiz, and Madeira and France, which is a video game. I don't have yet any images, so I made this kind of presentation. The name is Hunting Modern Pirates, the game. And it will be a fully immersive experience, also with a headset. So the story is that a treasure hunter has been seen looting a shipwreck here in Spain. The treasure hunter says it's a Dutch ship and that they have all the permissions, but we know that's a lie because treasure hunters lies. And so you, the player, have a day to find out if that's really that ship or it is a Spanish ship and they are looting it. So we have 3 different levels of difficulty: easy, medium, and hard, depending on how much help do you want, and also considering the different age of the player. And you have different outcomes. You always win, because for losing, we have life already. So you can prove it is not a Dutch ship, you can prove it is a Spanish ship, or you can even find the name of the ship. Anyway, the treasure hunter goes where it belongs, which is jail. It's beautiful, that. So how you prove or not prove these things? Well, we have a real site already digitalized, and we will left some clues from the shipwreck scattered around the site. So you go diving and you go finding things, okay? You have here some examples: parts of the naval architecture, coins, ceramics, the anchor, canyons, etc. The thing is, we thought that the player won't be knowing what's seen, because he's not really an archaeologist. That's the fun of the game. You pretend to be. You don't have to be. So what we made is a really amazing lab ship, like a unicorn lab ship that we all dream about, that is going to go with you and in direct contact with the player. So the player is diving with a camera or a tablet. And as the player is seeing things, he's getting help from the lab ship. For instance, example of collecting evidence. You see a canyon, so you get audio from the lab ship. Awesome. Oh, it's a canyon. Well, is there any inscription? So you have your tools, you say, look closer, and you look closer, and what? It appears the inscription. Then the lab ship said, oh my God, it seems a blah, blah, blah used for blah, 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 and I'm sending you the info. So the player, on a very schematic way, can see what he's seen and what was it for. And all the information related on a very simple way. Then, at the end of the game, there is an automatic made final report where all the achievements will be included, such as you found a canyon, you find a coin, so you have the chronology of the ship, you have the ceramics, so you know where the ship was coming from, and at the end you get the outcome from these three outcomes we have. There will be also some kind of special medals in the case you find special things from the natural environment, or you help to clean garbage. And this is mostly the game. And at this point, the French company is developing all the hardware. And what we are doing, meanwhile, in the University of Cádiz is working on the 3D modeling of the objects that the diver will be finding, such as Ballestina. I don't know the name in Portuguese, but I know Portuguese people use that a lot, as we did. A Ballestina, which is a navigational instrument, coins, or ceramics. And that's more or less the work we are doing. We hope this game is ready by Christmas. And I don't know, I'm very excited about this. It will be displayed in the Algeciras Museum, and we already have, I think there were like 10 headsets for it's a small museum, so we think it would be enough for people experiencing the game. And that's all. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Carlota. So thank you so much for these innovative techniques and strategies to make the underwater cultural heritage accessible to the public. I will turn to Barbara just to finish the presentation, and then we'll move on. Barbara, please. You can back for the Musas project. Barbara, we have lost you again. Okay, sorry, it's my fault. Now you can.
Okay.
Okay, my fault.
Okay.
I have to give you a second.
Sorry, you closed me out of the door.
Sorry.
Sorry.
So
sorry.
Back to Musas project.
Yes. I want just to finish my speech without the videos, so we don't have problem with the line.
The connection is not very good, but
what I like to tell the connecting the technique. Hear me?
yes.
Can you
hear you? Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I try to move. Sorry. Yes, I don't know. I try to move in another room. Can you hear me now?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Well, just to finish my speech, and I'd like to tell you this concerning Musas, that was a really interesting project that is going to finish, that gave us in Italy the possibility to open to the public 2 underwater digital parks. 2 underwater digital parks that can be used for the scholars, to the archaeologists that manage the park, to register environmental parameters, to control the state of conservation of the site, and to open to the public thanks to the visit using tablets, and thanks to the augmented reality and the internet underwater in a new way. And I think that this could be the future of underwater cultural heritage, to the enhancement aspects of the underwater cultural heritage. And we are looking for to open more underwater digital parks in Italy, and we are going to study how in the future, of course, if COVID help us and stop to develop, otherwise it's quite difficult to study the tourism, and if this type of visit can increase the tourism underwater, of course. But we think that the technologies can help us to improve the access of underwater cultural heritage in this way. So I think that if you continue to visit our website and to see in the future the result of Musas, probably it could be useful for other countries. Thank you, and sorry for my problems of connection.
Thank you. No problem. It's normal. We have also here. So thank you very much, Barbara, for your presentation and your final comments. I think Pedro, that will speak next. It's really happy to hear all these techniques, I think, because it's maybe an opportunity to make some partnerships in the future for Portugal also. So the next communication, it's about arqueologia subaquática nos Açores, estratégias para uma gestão sustentável. Infelizmente não estará connosco o colega José Luís Neto, que tem outro compromisso no mesmo horário, mas estará connosco o Pedro Parreira, que fará a apresentação. O Pedro Parreira é nascido e criado nos Açores, como eu gosto de dizer, é licenciado em Arqueologia e História pela Universidade de Coimbra, tendo seguido um percurso pela terra e mar de Portugal, de Bragança até a Ilha do Corvo. É coautor de cerca de uma centena de artigos de divulgação científica na área da arqueologia, da história e da museologia relacionados com o arquipélago dos Açores, sendo funcionário do Governo Regional dos Açores desde 2015, atualmente técnico superior da Divisão do Património Móvel e Material e Arqueológico. Connosco não está o José Luís Neto, mas deixaria também uma nota curricular, uma vez que é coautor desta comunicação. O José Luís é diretor do Museu da Horta atualmente, é doutorado em Arqueologia, é autor de uma dezena de livros também na especialidade e conta com cerca de 4 centenas de artigos publicados na área da História, da Arqueologia, do Património e da Museologia. É coordenador técnico da candidatura Carta Arqueológica Subaquática dos Açores, premiada como Best Practices for Underwater Cultural Heritage pela Unesco em 2019. Coordenador técnico da candidatura Património Cultural Subaquático dos Açores, premiada com a European Heritage Label da União Europeia já no ano passado, em 2020. Conjuntamente com o Pedro, tem feito um trabalho que eu acho que é de muito valor de comunicação daquilo que é o património cultural subaquático dos Açores. Pedro, por favor.
Olá, Sónia, boa tarde a todos. Vou falar 2 segundos em português, já vou passar para o inglês, só para dar as boas tardes a todos os que nos estão a ouvir e a ver, porque a maior parte são portugueses, portanto preferi começar assim em português, mas já vamos passar para inglês, foi o que foi pedido, e peço desculpa a alguém pelo meu inglês altamente macarrónico, mas vou tentar falar o melhor possível e tentar explicar de uma forma adequada. Good afternoon, everyone. So I would like to first say that José Neto was supposed to be here with me today, as Sonia first stated. He did not help write this part because he was busy, so I ended up preparing this on my own. So if I have any mistakes, they are mine, not his. But I would also like to say that he has been one of the most crucial parts of the work that we've been doing here in the Azores for the last couple of years. And before him, we have someone in the public, which is Ana Catarina Garcia, who was also a very important part of the strategy that we have been developing for the underwater archaeology in the Azores for the last 25 years, which has been around the time that the Azores first began to look at it in a concentrated way, in a strategic way. Before that, we had other realities that we will speak about them very shortly, and then we will approach and focus on strategies that have been developed over the last 20 years and that culminated in the European Heritage Label victory that we had last year, which is the first underwater site in the whole Europe and the first archaeological site in Portugal that has been distinguished with that award. And it's something that makes us very proud, and we hope to share it with you today and to share our strategies and learn plenty. We have already learned a lot from Italy and from Spain today, and I hope we can learn more during the debate that will follow. So let's start with the Azores very quickly. Sorry. I'm really bad at this, sorry. Okay, let's start with the Azores very quickly. Most of the people watching know about the Azores. Those of you that don't probably heard the name or saw it at least on the program for today's webinar. The Azores are an archipelago of 9 islands that stands literally in the center of the world in the 16th, 17th, and 15th, 16th, and 17th century. So they stood at the center of the world, and that made the location, strategically speaking, fundamental for the new globalization. Sorry, I have a call on the office, sorry. Okay, so anyway, like I was saying, they stand here in the center of the new globalization. They're fundamental for all the ships that cross the ocean, for the settlements on the American continent. They are fundamental for all the ships that cross the ocean for Africa and Asia to connect with Europe and the global markets that were created, and the development that this led to the new shared European heritage that was created. Great post-colonial empires, and the Azores stood on the center of it all. Not other archipelagos are also a part of it, and we'll be talking about that a little bit soon, but the Azores were one of the most important parts of it. We have a local historian from the 15th century, from the 16th century, that used to call the Azores the universal layover of the world, because here all ships stopped, and that led naturally to the presence of a lot of underwater cultural heritage, which is the fancy name we use to speak about underwater archaeology. So this means, So this means we have 9 islands. 9 islands mean 9 different realities, and the reality that we have here on the island where I'm at right now, which is Terceira, is completely different from the reality in Porvo, which is on one of the extremes of the archipelago, or even to the reality of Graciosa, which is an island right next to ours. And each site has very different realities, both historically speaking and currently, which means that each island has very different realities when it comes to archaeology. I work for the Azores regional government. We have shared tutelage of the entire archipelago, but we are well aware that we cannot apply the same strategy in every island, and we cannot apply the same reality to every island. We need to be aware that each community is very different and profoundly, and those differences are profoundly marked. So one of the first steps when you look to create strategy for the entire archipelago has to be the necessity to understand that each community is very different and each reality is very different. We have around 225, sorry, I cannot pronounce this in English. We have around a 250,000 inhabitants. and that, comparatively speaking, right now we have 329 archaeological sites detected, and nearly 100 of them are underwater. But the potential is much bigger. To give you an example, here on Angra Bay, we have around 100 shipwrecks documented, plus we have underwater cultural heritage associated with the local fortifications, even the local global market of globalization. So heritage sites, they can appear, a lot more can be identified in the future, and the strategy that we've put in place is precisely to prepare for this growing identification of sites. We estimate around 1,000 shipwrecks documented for the Azores over the 5 centuries that they have been inhabited by ever since the Portuguese founded the first settlements here in Santa Maria. So as you can see, the potential is very interesting, but it also requires the establishment of a strategy that can help us coordinate all this potential. I'm trying to move to the next one. Okay. So let me give you a quick history lesson so we can all catch up on the importance of the underwater archaeology for the Azores before we move forward in understanding what the strategies are currently. The underwater archaeology in the Azores was partially born here on this archipelago. There was an operation on the 60s in Troia, in Setúbal, near the in Portuguese mainland, near Lisbon. It was the first documented official underwater archaeology operation, and shortly after that, the Angra Museum here in Terceira Island was already financing and promoting these campaigns here locally. With the Americans that were settled here on the Lajes field, they were coordinating the operations to recover underwater artillery pieces and incorporate them on the Angra Museum, which means that underwater archaeology has been a part of the Azores for many decades before it became officially institutionalized. It was the director and the founder of the Angra Museum that first became aware of the reality that you need a coordinated strategy for this heritage. And so he promoted in the 70s an international campaign with a group of connoisseurs and underwater experts. Arguably, we can call them archaeologists or not, the opinions differ, but they were led by someone called Sidney Wignall, which was here looking for the Revenge, which is one of the most famous shipwrecks we have here, and we can talk about it later if you are interested in the debate. But they were here looking for that site, and then this became a very mediatic case because it involved treasure hunters and it involved attempted to sell local heritage on international markets. So what happened was that for the first time, they began to be aware of the necessity to establish a strategy. The strategy was not coordinated locally, it was centralized in the Portuguese mainland. At the time, Portugal was under a dictatorship, so everything had to go to Lisbon. And the proposed strategy was to create a reservation in Angra Bay that would protect it from treasure hunting, and that would ensure that, legally speaking, there were mechanisms to defend its underwater heritage. But they only focused on the Angra Bay, and as we saw earlier, we had plenty of other potential sites to be pillaged on other islands. So we were still in big danger. This danger is compiled by the fact that local communities also pillage their own shipwrecks. This is not something we can judge them on. It is something that happens naturally. If you have a source of iron, if you have a source of metal, if you have a source of wood locally and you are a diver, you will eventually bring something up. What we need to do is work with the local communities to make sure that today that we have a more concise and institutionalized strategy. They stopped doing that, of course. They did it 100 years ago, they did it 50 years ago. It's something that's novel. So the pillaging in the underwater heritage was in danger. This meant that the Azores needed to put forward a new strategy, a stronger strategy, one that would ensure that for the future this heritage would stay alive for the future. Of course, we all know, just a quick parenthesis, we all know that the underwater cultural heritage, it doesn't last forever. The sea eventually takes everything. So we have to look at these time capsules, which are shipwrecks we have here, in a way that with respect and with study, but also understanding that they will eventually disappear. Very rarely the shipwrecks from very early periods remain, especially in the Atlantic. The Atlantic Ocean is very destructive. It's a very destructive force, and here in the middle of it, where we are in the Azores, it hits hard. And if you're diving here, you understand that very easily. So what did they thought? What was planned early on in this history lesson? What was planned for the strategies? Well, they thought about legislation. They thought about legislation, and they thought about how to coordinate this legislation with the national government. So the first thing that happened was, during a sort of dark time of our government here, there was a legislation that actually helped the treasure hunters. It was in the early 90s, and the legislation that was passed was actually focused on permitting the new companies and new treasure companies to come here and salvage everything that they had here. And I mean here in the whole of Portugal, not just in the Azores. But the Azores were the first to push back. Local communities, when they understood what that legislation meant, they realized that they would soon be invaded by companies that would raid the sites, the wreck sites here. So the local communities, they knew that they had to do something, and they began to push back with the help of national archaeologists, and especially with the help of Francisco Alves, which is essentially the founding father of our underwater archaeology in Portugal, and he is someone that had a big hand in working with the Azores towards our autonomy and our protection of our underwater cultural heritage. And this pushback led to new legislation that was created shortly after this first one in the early 90s. This second legislation was in the second half of the 90s of the 20th century, that already ensured a new and renewed protection of the underwater cultural heritage, and ensured that there would be rules in place that would make sure that we would have legal mechanisms to face treasure hunting companies. And this has more or less stayed in place until today. This means that the Azores, compared to other archipelagos in the Atlantic, and especially with Cape Verde, the Azores are one of the few places that have always pushed back against treasure hunters. I'm not saying there have been people who have helped, of course there has been, but most, institutionally speaking, a big part of the early strategy was to push back against treasure hunting and against pillaging of sites. This, of course, led to the creation of new diplomas, new legal and local legislation that ensured that we had our own protection. The national government passed a legislation in the year 2000 that passed on the autonomy of protecting the Azorean underwater cultural heritage, as well as the Madeira archipelago underwater cultural heritage locally, which meant the local governments, which is where I work, they had the autonomy to create and enforce their own regulations, and to also create and enforce their own strategy. Of course, archaeology, as we know, is not especially looked fondly by most governmental authorities usually. So we are usually forgotten. We are a sector of a culture that is usually forgotten. And so what happened was that for years, the local authorities began to work on this strategy, but were many times forgotten, and many times there was pushback. So it was given back and forth. In 2004 was created the first underwater archaeological park. It was based on the work that was already been done in the 70s to protect the underwater archaeological heritage of the Angra Bay. It was the first underwater archaeological park in Portugal, and it was a great achievement for the local government. It was also coordinated by Ana Catarina, which is listening here today, and the merit, and it was an excellent job that's paved the way for what we are doing today. Since then, there's been other 4 archaeological parks. We have 5. Currently, we are preparing new legislation and working on the creation of more underwater archaeological parks. We are also working on land, but that's not the topic of today. But it's the idea is to create more and enforce more regulations that will allow people to, for once, look towards their site with enjoyment, but also to not pillage them and to not visit and destroy them, and have proper regulation and proper visitation etiquette. We have one diploma for overseeing, legally speaking, the area, the archaeology in general, and it has parts that focus specifically on underwater archaeology. We have one proposal awaiting superior indications. We have one proposed for overseeing the activity speaking, which we call the decreto regulamentar. I'm not sure how to say it in English, but it is to regulate the area, of course, to put forward indications that will help archaeologists in practice and practically speaking, which is something we still don't have. We have it nationally, we don't have it locally. We have protocols that have been signed with dive centers, and that ensure we call them our treasure keepers, because the people that visit shipwrecks more are the dive centers. They go there with the tourists, and the shipwrecks that are visitable are incredibly rentable, and we'll talk about it more when we speak about the strategy that is currently in place. But the protocols we've established with the dive centers, for once they felt that they were being heard, and so now when they take the tourists there, they are cautious and careful enough to provide the best practices that they can have when visiting the sites. They are the ones that will take the tourists and say, do not touch. Look, this is a good hostel. This place has great history. We need to preserve it, and all of that. They are very. They have been over the last couple of years. Most of the local dive centers have been working with us, and they have been doing a great job at it. And we are very proud of this relation that we established with them, which has been, like I said, over the last 25 years, has been a work in progress, and still work in progress always. The legislation we have here also relates to the fact that we have two awards applied to the underwater archaeology in the Azores, which Sonia mentioned in our presentation. The UNESCO Best Practices Award, which is an award that was provided in 2019 for the work we've been doing with the dive centers, especially in with the manual that allowed us to when we published the manual that has been shared near the local communities, and that attempts to ensure that everyone that visits the shipwrecks is careful enough not to destroy them, not to pillage them, not to damage the local wildlife, and many other practices that are pretty normal for all of us here today, probably, but are not so normal for tourists that come to visit sharks, and they end up visiting a shipwreck, so they need to understand what the rules of the game are. And there's also European legislation related to the European Heritage Label. We have rules in place. The fact that we are now part of this elite group means that we have, of course, bugs, but we mostly have to ensure rules are kept under strict control, which means we have to monitor the sites, we have to value the sites, we have to put forward local tools and local mechanisms that will ensure that people have access to those sites. And I've been hearing our colleagues from Italy and from Spain talking about something very interesting solutions, mainly related to the new technologies available to us. These solutions have not put in place in the Azores, mostly because we lack funding, as most places do. We were tempted to work with the project which is called Blue Bridges, which was something a spin-off of the original Blue Met, but it ended up not going forward. So funding is not very available. So we are still working on it, but we hope to use the new technology soon. And so these are the legislations that apply here, and these are the legislations that we have so far regulating our work. So let's talk about the strategy. The strategy currently in place was created having thought and having concentrated and valuing all the work that has come before us. This is these are rules and guidelines that we've put forward over the last 8 years, since reasonably speaking, and there are guidelines that are focused essentially on 3 axes: protection, promotion, and publication. Publication, because it starts with a P. The best word would be eventually inventory, but since we wanted 3 words with a P, it ended up being publication. So protection, promotion, publication. Keep that in mind as we are going forward. How do we protect the sites? We protect them with the legislation that we just talked about, and we also protect them with sensitizing people or talking to them, going to the communities, creating direct action with them and making them understand the importance and the value that heritage has. So we work, and since these are 9 islands, this means we travel a lot, and we work directly with the people, and we attempt to do the most that we can to make them understand that they are the first line of defense of this heritage. So they need to understand that when they visit it, they need to understand that we have to work together in the partnership, all of us, if we want this heritage to be protected and to be safe for the future, and for our children and for our grandchildren and all of that. So these are the 2 lines of protection that we have most. Promotion is where we get here. And here is the Azores Underwater Archaeological Route, which was first published in a book that we published with the Tourism Association of the Azores in 2018. This book was distributed amongst the dive centers. We didn't have funding to distribute it amongst every citizen, of course, but we distributed with the dive centers, and then we published it digitally. which is now available online. It has 30 underwater sites across 8 islands. Corfu still doesn't have any detected. We hope to change that during the next years. Corfu is a very complicated place to dive, so it is not always easy to find the shipwrecks there, but we will work as hard as we can on that. This promotion that first started with the archaeological route has culminated in European co-funded projects that we will talk about soon, and we will come back to the promotion then. I would like to say, however, that all the research and prospection work and everything that we've been pushing forward from governmental perspective has led, as part of the publication that I was talking about, the inventory, the registry, the creation of the Azores underwater archaeological chart, which was first put forward by the work that Ana Catarina Garcia and Alexandre Monteiro and others underwater archaeologists started doing here in the Azores, and that we drank from that knowledge and we put forward our own, and we worked with them, and we still do work with them plenty of times to grow these sites, the number of sites registered, the number of sites created, and we promote research on them. Summary research, we cannot do academic research, of course, but we promote research on them so that people will understand and will receive promotional materials that are well informed. We do a lot of best practice training with the community. That's also part of the strategy for protection and promotion, because when we are training the communities, we are also promoting this heritage. There are videos that we have, the underwater documentaries, photographs, and just talking to them. Of course, we can be a bit boring sometimes, but we try our best. So regarding the promotion and regarding the future of our strategy and why we call it a sustainable strategy. A sustainable strategy comes first because we need to ensure that these sites are here for the next generations and that they do not damage the wildlife around it as well. The future is cooperation, and this cooperation comes in many places and in many ways. One of the most important ways we look to cooperate for the future is with the universities and with research centers and with specialists, not only in archaeology, but also in history, but also in anthropology, and also, of course, in biodiversity, so that we can ensure that all wildlife and all the sites are preserved for the future. This requires titanic work, and this requires very bureaucratic work, which is not exactly always easy to put forward, but we are looking towards that. There is a side of this operation going, which is the international projects. Now, our colleagues have presented projects similar to this one. This is called Mergulhar. It is a project that was first put forth by the Cabildo de Lanzarote in Canary Archipelago, and it was put forth to Portugal, Cape Verde, and Senegal, and each of the countries accepted in their own ways. Portugal is represented by Azores and Madeira, Cape Verde is represented by their own government, and Senegal as well. This means what? I don't know the term in English. It's Macaronesia. I don't know the term in English, but it is the connection of several archipelagos and the Atlantic and their underwater cultural heritage. The Mergulhar project, very first in baseline that is the most important part of it is cooperation and how we exchange knowledge with each other. And the Canarians, they do not need underwater archaeology to survive. It is not a touristic product. It is a research project. So they have knowledge that we do not have. Here we are captivating these sites to work with them and to cultivate a culture of visitation that not only helps our local economy, but also helps develop our underwater archaeology and research. So we have different knowledge to share with them, and all the other partners have different knowledges to share with us. And the importance here is this cooperation, and this cooperation is fundamental for the future. And I believe that this is where we need to look, all of us together, not just to the new technologies, which are very important, but also for the cooperation with every entity in every country, and not be afraid to share our knowledge, because the knowledge needs to be shared. It should never be kept in the closed doors. So the project partners, the project began in 2017, as you can see. The partners are all those here represented with these very interesting logos. And what are the project goals? The project goals are very simple. A shared heritage between all partners based on underwater archaeology and underwater cultural heritage. This shared heritage will create, in turn, a tourism product, which economically speaking is viable for all partners, but is more important for some than others. And I'll give you the example of Cape Verde, where the economy is not as strong as some of the other partners, so they can capitalize on their underwater archaeology to create a new project that will bring forth new types of tourism. Now, understandably, during this pandemic, when we talk about bringing tourism, people are always a bit scared because tourism these days means virus. But we need to understand and we need to hope that the future will bring some kind of new normality where tourism will return, and it will be important for all economies, but for some more than others. So how do we create this? We create this new touristic project with a shared database and a route like the one we have created for the ASOS with the 30 sites. Other partners have created their own, and then we can share it and create a common route, shared database of all underwater archaeological sites. And this database will be provided to the public for visitation. This in turn focuses on boosting its economic potentials, whilst always never forgetting and never looking away from the best practices of visitation, which ensures sustainability. So this is a three-pronged area of effect, which comes back to the strategy that the Azores government already had in place before walking into Project Mergulhar, which is protection, promotion, and publication. So with all of this in place, right now, the Mergulhar project has allowed us to create and evolve a lot, because there is European funding, and there is also the cooperation and shared knowledge that has promoted and put forward a new kind of strategy for the region, which has been fundamental for the development of underwater archaeology. Just a couple of little graphics so that people can have an idea of our reality here. And I am about to shut up because I've been talking for a lot now. And Sonia is probably trying to kill me right now with her mind. Okay, so thank you very much. I hope I've been clear, and any questions, I'll be here.
Thank you, Pedro. Obrigada. I think that I was watching the three presentations, and was two words that all the time are in my mind: cooperation, that Pedro now emphasized, and also the Interreg program, because is a funding from the European Commission that is made to this cooperation across borders. So as you can see, or we can see that this program is financing a lot of projects on this area of cultural heritage. I will move to the debate, and just to beginning, I have some questions to all of you, but just to beginning with a question that Ana Catarina Garcia has left to Pedro. She asks, I would like to ask Pedro if you are able now to work more with local communities, and how you feel the accomplishment of locals to the underwater cultural heritage.
It's part of what I was saying. It's one of our most important areas of action because of the promotion and the protection of those sites, because those local communities are the first line of defense. So we've been looking to do campaigns, and the Project Mergulhar has provided funding that has helped for us to travel to all the islands and do these interactions directly with the people there, because as much as we'd like for this to work forever with the Zooms and the meetings and the phone calls, most people like to be looking eye to eye with each other when they're talking. When we're there, we're looking and we're talking with these people. So what I can answer for the Catarina's question is that yes, we've been looking to do more of this, and we've also had the benefit of having new funding from the European Union that has allowed us to do more work with the local communities, and it's one of our most important objectives for the future.
Thank you, Pedro. Just an information, now em português. Ativei a possibilidade de todos ligarem o microfone e a câmara, para se eventualmente quiserem colocar questões, e enfim, fazerem-se ver e fazerem-se ouvir. Vou passar a palavra a Carlota, that has to make some questions to Barbara and Pedro also, please.
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you for all the presentations. They were all very interested, and I'm sorry to crash on yours, Barbara. It was like going in the middle of a Rolling Stone concert with just a guitar, but these things happen with technology. My question for Barbara is, first, congrats on the institute. I think that's amazing. And I would like, if it's possible for you to explain me a little bit more how it works with like the ministries or the administration level, because I think that's a very important thing. I always complain about the lack of experts on the institutional level here in Spain. So if that's like a very consultative organism, I think that's amazing and I would like to know more. And to Pedro, also, thank you for your presentations. I have a question because you said you have 30 underwater sites. I have some notes here, and I was wondering how you. I mean, you said you protect the places by the legislation and by the awareness raising, which is one of the best ways we all know. But here in Spain, we have the problem that we have these two issues, but we don't have resources for an effective surveillance of the site. Even if we know, we can work with the police to know that someone is approaching the site or is on the site and they should not be there, but there are no police ships to go there to do something in the moment. So that's really a problem for us. We have been working in Algeciras Bay because we have the Port Authority surveillance, as in the Natural State Park. We are working there also because they have their own legislation and protocols and stuff. So I would like to know more. And if I may, also, if in these parks are some underwater like elements or museographic elements or something, who takes care of the maintenance, who takes care of the elements so they do not be destroyed? I don't know if, because you have your eyebrows up, I think I'm not explaining myself.
No, it's okay, it's okay.
Okay, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, Carlotta, thank you for the compliments and concerning the activities of this new institute, the Soprintendenza per il Patrimonio Culturale Subacqueo. This office can work and has an importance on all of the national territory. So, and we are based in Taranto, in south of Italy, and we have two operational centers, one in Naples and one in Venice, that are going to be organized because we started, as I told you, in December. So this month past, I have worked from the administrative point of view to organize the activities of these offices with the new archaeologists that started to work with us. And so the administrative activities in this period is too much than the activities in the field, as you can imagine, but now we are going to start, and we have just activities in Calabria and in Crotone for the Dive Safe project just 2 weeks ago. Concerning the organization in Italy at the moment now, so we have this national superintendency with the goal to direct the activities in underwater archaeological field, especially in cataloging the underwater archaeological site and for example, to coordinate the activities of the regional superintendency, because at the moment the regional superintendency with the unit of underwater archaeology continues to work in the field, sometimes more, sometimes not too much. It depends on the organization of the superintendency in the regional point of view. But but in the future, but for example, now we have money to improve the activity. My office have the money to improve the activities of the archaeologists, the underwater archaeologists that work in the unit of the superintendents in different regions. And so we are start to cooperate all together with the archaeology, underwater archaeologists that are in the Ministry of Culture. We are not too much. We are around 10 underwater archaeologists scattered in our countries. And so it's important that this central institution can coordinate but work together. Instead, we improve the activities with new projects and money and so on. So it's important that our ministry start to the institution of this central office that I think in the future can improve also the research, the protection of underwater cultural heritage. And I'll do my best, of course, to do this.
Thank you. It's amazing and so much work behind, I'm sure. So
yeah,
it's awesome. Thank you very much.
And also the cooperation with foreign countries, so we can start to cooperate together if you want, of course.
Pedro, you can answer.
Okay, so never mind my eyebrows. I think I understood both questions. How do we protect all these sites? Well, there's a short answer and a long answer. I'll try to keep it short. Like I was saying, the first line of defense is the people. So the people that are in each community, and sensitizing them and making sure that they understand the importance of that heritage, they defend it. So even if the tourists are going there and they don't know what they're doing, both local communities, fishermen and local recreational divers, as well as the dive centers, they do that work. If we work with them and if we give them the importance that they need to be given, they understand that they are working with us and they are working with their archipelago. And the Azores, we also have a very strong autonomous tradition. So the local people here, if we value them, they value that heritage because they are very proud of their past. So we just need to make sure that they understand. On the other side, as you spoke about the police ships, we have a very good relationship with all three captaincies. Each local group has a captain, a local maritime captain that in turn controls the police that coordinates the policing of the seas here. And we have a very good relationship with them. We have provided them with these best practices manuals that we have prepared in 2019, and we have done various formations with them to make sure that each of the local policemen, they understand the importance of the underwater cultural heritage. We have examples of this working because just last year, before COVID was hitting us hard here in the Azores, me and my colleague at the time, we went to one of the islands because we were called by the police. They said, "Oh, we were driving by and we saw an anchor on this guy's yard." And we remembered the way we talked about it. We're like, "Oh, this guy is an anchor? Where does this anchor came from?" And they understood that the anchor had been pillaged from a wreck site. And so we went and we talked to the person. We didn't even apply any kind of fine or any kind of coercive measure. We just talked to the guy. He was a local diver, early 20s. He didn't know we couldn't take the anchor. We talked with him. It's fine. The guy called us a couple of months ago and said, "Oh, I found a new site. Here's some pictures." And we have a new site now because he's working with us. So this cooperation is very important. And this starts with the people. It's our first line of defense. And the police, they've been very helpful as well, of course, because we have very few archaeologists in the Azores. So we need the help of the people. We cannot do this fight alone. So we need to talk with them and we need to sensitize them. Regarding maintenance, well, if I understand correctly, you're talking about the maintenance of the ships themselves, right?
I'm sorry. No, I don't know if you have anything placed on the bottom for the divers, such as signs or things.
Not on all the sites, but we have on some of them. Maintenance of everything that regarding those kinds of works and those kinds of synaletics and all of that, it comes from the government. So we are the ones funding it. We are the ones, but we work with local professional divers to install the elements there, the synaletics. We work with them, and then the maintenance is done also with the professional divers. We fund the maintenance, but the professional divers do it because they are much better at it than we are. So they are the ones that understand how that work goes. This is also injecting money into the local economy, so it's part of our job as government. So this is what we do. I think I answered both questions. I'll try not to raise my eyebrows again, sorry.
Your eyebrows are excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pedro. Dizer à audiência para não se inibir de fazer perguntas. Se quiser falar em português, poderá falar em português. Well, based on the debate between Pedro and Carlota, and also some things that Barbara said, I have a question that, well, based on your experience in the projects and initiatives that you presented to us, what is your assessment of social participation? I mean, what stakeholders and groups or audiences like public authorities, the schools, divers, and the general public seem to you more aware and more sensitive to the needs and importance of protecting and changing the underwater cultural heritage? Where are the difficulties and where are the best practices or the more enthusiastic people to maybe the schools? I have a good experience with the schools. What do you think?
I can start if you,
Yes.
Do you agree? Yes, I can start to answer to you. Well, of course, it's very important to share with different target of people the awareness and of importance of underwater cultural heritage, of protection of cultural heritage. Concerning my experience in Italy, I think that it's very easy to be in touch with, to enter in contact with the students, schools, different level, and it's very easy also to enter in touch with the diving center, because all the diving center in Italy are interested in underwater cultural heritage, also because it could be a good way to work, because in some places underwater cultural heritage is open to the public. So this is important for the economy of the stakeholders and the diving center, of course. But sometimes it could be quite difficult to be in touch with common people that don't have a high level of school, for example, or don't have capability to use tablets or new technologies, for example, because with young people it's easy, they are interested in the new technologies. So if they are not interested in archaeology, they are curious to use the new technology, and so thanks to this they enter in the underwater archaeology world, and they love it after, because when they know it, they start to love it. So if they're not interested, we can fish them using the new technologies. But with people that is quite don't have this high level of capability to knowledge, it could be difficult. And sometimes also I think that it could be difficult to enter really in deep with the politicals, with the manager of the municipalities, or at different levels. So it is important, I think, to prepare also guidelines or best practices to share with people that have to manage the countries at a different level, so municipality or regional level, because they know underwater archaeologists, but in a way that is not important for the complexity that we know very well, and they are in a position that it's strategic. So it's important that they understand how we have to manage everything. So I think that each European project, for example, involved, devoted to this matter, have to think to a way, the better way to communicate, not only with common people or with the young people, but also with the management of the country, of the city, of the regions.
Thank you. Yes, I share this idea, because normally sometimes they said something like, let's make underwater museum, and they don't have an idea how to do it, and they think it's something very simple and pick the pieces and put in the water. So they don't understand concepts like in situ protection. It's experiencing this kind of conversations with colleagues.
Yes, monitoring, for example, monitoring and the long approaches that you need to control an underwater archaeological site. So we have to speak with them, because thanks to them also everything could be possible. So
exactly.
We have to find a way to
Pedro and Carlota,
show them.
No, I don't think there's much to say about that. I totally agree with Barbara. In fact, 2 weeks ago, someone contacted me from Cartagena here in Spain to make like a touristic product, which is something I do not do. I just make the cultural part. But it was like, okay, well, we need a project, we need the research, we need to see the environment, we need to check the state of the heritage, and then we can go this or that. And they were like, but can you just put a site or something, a sign in the bottom, and we just send people? And I was like, okay, so if I put this in a case and with a sign, is my house a museum? No, it's not, right? You need a lot of work. And it's true that sometimes we focus the awareness raising on the regular people. And I think that's improving, and we've been working on that, and it's paying off. And we forget about, as Barbara said, the people that can make the decisions and the policymakers, let's say. So I totally agree with everything.
No doubt about it. So the suits are usually the hardest part of our job, is the convincing suits and the money cases and all of that. And if you want to talk about difficulties in our area, I think we can all agree that the most important difficulty is financing. We have to scrape the bottom of the barrel every time, because people don't understand. And I think even us as archaeologists, we have a hard time understanding this. There should be no shame, no problem about using underwater archaeology as a touristic product. We need to ensure that this product is secured. We need to ensure that it is defended. We need to ensure the best practices. But if it is made well, and if these routes are visitable and they have the required criteria to be visitable, and when I say that, I'm saying that they are not in danger of being destroyed by visitation, these products, they are a very important economic base for their regions, their countries, their local communities. And I think that this is how we convince the policymakers. I think this is how we convince them that they have a future, because the policymakers, the politicians, they are looking for a way to gain more public attention. And if they improve economy, if they create jobs, then this is the path that we need to take. And I think we need to lose a bit of the shame of admitting that archaeology is financially viable. It is. I understand that we looked forward to being historians and looking to be in love with the past and to preserve it and to put it on a glass dome. I've been there. I've been there every day, and I understand the need for that. But I also understand that we need to be pragmatic. And how do you convince a guy that spent 30 years of his life in an office, that has never put one foot inside a ship, that has never cared about boats in his entire life? How do you convince him? You do it with money. And I think this is the path forward. And this is just my humble opinion. I don't want to be I don't want to be very polemic here or anything like that. I don't want to, and I want to definitely don't want to raise my eyebrows, but this is my opinion, and I hope I don't offend anyone.
Thank you, Pedro. We have o João Amil, gostaria de fazer algumas questões. João, por favor.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm not sure if you're hearing me.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so my name is João. I'm working with Vintage Aero Club. It's a non-profitable organization in Portugal which is working towards education and preservation of aeronautical heritage in Portugal. And we have an ongoing project regarding a Second World War aircraft which sank, or it fell in the ocean and sank in the Portuguese coast. And the project is aiming to find the wreck and to at least make some, to document it in video and image. I have a few questions to Dr. Barbara. The first one is your project working also, does it include also Second World War ships and airplanes which were sunk in the Mediterranean Sea? And also regarding the 3D modeling, my question is, are you using a photogrammetry technique? And is it just a project, or is it an ongoing project? Have you started or do you have any modeling already complete? I also have a question to Dr. Carlota. And also, if you have started, if you're using, because I realize that you mentioned 3D modeling, but I'm not sure if you're talking about 3D modeling of objects which have been retrieved from the ocean bottom, or if you're actually doing underwater 3D modeling, and also if you're using photogrammetry techniques. And my last question also for Dr. Carlota is, how exactly are you using the live stream? What is it? Are you like teaching classes? Is it just as demonstration? Is it part of a museum project? How are you exactly using it? Thank you very much.
Well, yes, concerning the first question, and at the moment, no, there's no any wrecks or airplane from the Second World War. Now, at the moment, Musas is involved only on archaeological sites. So Baie, Gnaccia, so Baie are Roman villas, Gnaccia an arbor, and some wrecks scattered in south of Italy. And concerning the 3D model, yes, we use photogrammetries, and also we use sub-bottom relief and sometimes for laser scanner reliefs. So we use all the typology or the different system to do the 3D relief underwater. And the Musas project is ongoing. Yes, it's not finished, and but the idea is to continue to use these technologies for other underwater archaeological sites in Italy. And I'm going with the new superintendents. I'm going to ask to the ministry more money to continue this this project in different underwater archaeological sites. And in this second project, if the ministry will give us the money, we are going to do insert a modern wreck, a modern wreck too. Yes.
Okay, so do I go now? Okay, as for us, for the video game, we are using photogrammetry for the site, to reconstruct the site for the video game. And the objects that we are modeling, some of them have been found under the sea and we have them on the lab. And some of them, we just take them from articles, papers, or things like that. So for the ones that we have, we use photogrammetry, but for those what we don't have, we have a 3D designer, and she, with all the documentation, can make the models. And the other question was about the streaming. The streaming will be, the idea is that in the Algeciras Museum, we have a room for the findings, and there would be the streaming that will show us working on the site to enrich the exhibition room. And then it would be available for virtually anyone that wants it, from schools, universities, other institutions, and especially also for our partners inside the project that have some heritage related, because the Interact project tend to share the knowledge and also the resources. So it is also meant to enrich their experiences, to be projected in their exhibitions or whatever. I don't know if I explain myself properly.
Yes. Thank you. Well, we are not, we don't have more questions from the audience. Well, I have a question that Carlota has already more or less answered in this last comment. That is about the role that museums and maritime museums can play in this, because now we are moving to, with all these digital tools and the in situ preservation and valorization, the museums have to, in Portuguese, reinventar. So they have to reinitiate and think how to join and what role they can play in all these new technologies and all this the relation with the sites and the in situ preservation and valorization. Carlota has already said something about that. Pedro and Barbara will say something in this the role that museums and maritime museums can have.
Sorry, one moment. I have to answer to the phone.
I can start.
Thank you.
Okay, so regarding museums, I have a couple of things to add, but I'm not the best person to do that. My colleague Jose, which was going to be here today, he's currently the director of a maritime museum. So personally, he would be the more accurate person to talk about the Azorian perspective of that. However, I do have some indications that I can offer. For one, on one side, the museums, they are, and I don't want to keep beating a dead horse, but they are the connection to the local communities. They are one of the strongest connections we have, because the communities, at least here in the Azores, most school children visit the museum every year. The most school children understand best practices for heritage saving there. They have activities all over the summer. They have activities with visitation sites and all that. So the museums are, in essence, heritage schools, at least when they do so their work properly. And I believe here in the Azores, we have plenty that do that. Their connection that they need to have, and Barbara already mentioned this a little bit regarding the younger communities, the connection that they need to have also goes through the new technologies. And I think that this is a work that is much easier to do with the young communities. This is obvious, and of course, everyone knows that the younger kids these days, 5-year-olds, are already born with a tablet on their hands somehow, and no one understands what happened there. But cognitively speaking, they already understand how to do work with the new technologies much better than I do. So the truth is that it's easy to explain to them these things. And if you use video games, if you use movies, if you use documentaries, if you use 3D modulation, all of this is fundamental, and the museums have a part to play in that. What I think the Azores lacks here, and I don't know if this happens on other regions and other countries in Europe, because I've never deep dived on that, but the Azores lacks specialized personnel. Most museums, with the exception of 2, they don't have archaeologists at all. They have historians that ensure the protection of the archaeological collections. But if you don't have someone that has at least a baseline of archaeology, then archaeology will be forgotten sooner or later. It will become a piece of museum that is exposed there with a small pottery vase, or one cannonball, or one cannon, or one anchor, and no one will work to ensure that connection to the community. So what I think we lack here is people, most of all, because the museums, they have a great job that they can fill, and also in conservation and restoration works from all the materials that are brought back from underwater and all that. They have a very important job, but they lack funding and they lack people, which I think is what we all lack right now.
Well, yes, I think that now is the moment of to rethink to the museum, to underwater museum, to underwater parks. In Italy, we can say parks and museums, because we have a lot of underwater archaeological trails underwater in Sicily, or in marine protected areas, for example. For us in Italy, it's very useful to organize, to arrange, to open to the public underwater cultural heritage in the marine protected areas. Thanks to this connection between the environmental protection and the underwater cultural heritage protection, we can open to the public a whole site, the whole site, and my the superintendenza, my new superintendenza, starting to think, together with the direction of the marine park, of marine protected areas, how to improve the knowledge of underwater cultural heritage that is in these areas. For example, nobody has categorize this cultural heritage at the moment. We are going to start to know how many single wrecks or single items, archaeological items, are present in the marine protected areas. It's important also this. So yes, we have to think to new museum, new trails, and a new way to open, to present this cultural heritage to the people, and of course also, as Pedro said before, is important the presence of the underwater archaeologist in the museum. In Italy, fortunately, we have archaeologists in the museums, of course, but not often the underwater archaeologist. So we have to push this the organization of the museum, of the ministry, to open positions of archaeologists and underwater archaeologists. Also because we have a lot of university where people can study underwater archaeologists, and they have to find a position in the society. They have to work in this field, of course. So I hope in the future, thanks the new project, the new deal, I hope we can improve these possibilities for a young generation of underwater archaeologists.
Thank you. Pedro, do you want to? Okay.
I was thinking about saying something, but I figured I should. It was going to upset some people.
Tomorrow you are fired. So, Carlota, do you want to share something in this topic? Maybe for your project, you work with some museums or some public authorities that.
Well, I've agreed in everything that it's already been said. I think we have also to keep in mind that technology is not the end, it's a mean, because sometimes we lose our mind with technology, and we are not Sony, we are not developing the PlayStation 5, so it's important that we have clear what we want to tell, who do we want to tell, what story are we bringing out, and then, yes, of course, every tool we can use is welcome. And on the other hand, related to the lack of experts in museums and also in our case in the administration, I think that's, as Barbara mostly said, it's related to the absence of an official education. Because when you open a job, how is that said? When you ask for people for a job, you cannot ask for something that is not officially existing. You can ask in our country for archaeologists, but not for underwater archaeologists if that is not an official education. Now in Spain, that's changing. We are doing baby steps. We have now here the master, and it's drop by drop going into the university. But I think that's a very important path, not only for the generations, but also to be able to demand a job with an official education.
Thank you. Maybe this led to my last question. That well, 20 years have passed since the signing of the UNESCO Convention on the protection of underwater cultural heritage. Well, considering the principles of the convention, in your perspective, what have the states parties best accomplished so far, and what goals do you still have to achieve in general terms, from your experience, your point of view?
I think that the state parties have worked a lot concerning my countries. For example, after 20 years, we have now a superintendent, national superintendent, for example, as the UNESCO suggests to each countries to have a devoted office devoted to underwater archaeologists to coordinate all the activities in this. And also in this moment we are the state parties are involved in a very interesting project in Skerki Bank. I don't know if you are, you know this. We are working to, as suggested by the convention, to start a cooperation in international water in Skerki Bank is between Sicily and Tunisia on the oh my God, I don't have sulla piattaforma, on the platform, continental platform of Tunisia. So we are going to start a international research in Scherki Bank, led by the Tunisia, because it's on its territory underwater. And for the first time, all the countries of the Mediterranean are involved in these activities to research and to better know the Scherki Bank, that is a very interesting site with a lot of archaeological remains, ancient remains, and also the Second World War remains. So the process to start these activities coming from 5 years, 6 years ago. So we need time, but now also probably thanks also to the new generation of experts that are involved in underwater archaeology in all the state parties. Now we are going to start and to work as the UNESCO Convention says. So this is very good. I think it's not in all way in all the countries. There are countries that need more time to have the same standards of the best countries, like France and other countries, of course. But I think that I'm an optimist. I think that we can work well.
Thank you. Carlota, Pedro, you want to say something?
I have to agree again, of course. I think we've come a long way in really a short time. If you think about that, 20 years ago in my country, you could take something, you could take an amphora from the sea and take it to your home. And now it's absolutely forbidden. We have now a strong legal framework to protect and to manage the heritage. It's true, each country has a point and need to do the steps, but I think it's been an amazing journey. In our case, to speak about the dust under our carpet, we need to keep working on the archaeological charts, because we don't have yet everything cataloged. We are a peninsula, we don't have enough research centers, so we don't know yet everything that we have. And that's the first step, to protect, to know, to investigate, and to everything. And on the other hand, there's something I'm going to open. Is that said, open a melon in Portuguese or in other countries? No, it's not. You open a melon in Spain when you bring something into the table and say, okay, I'm going to speak about that. And you open the melon. Anyway, the thing is, I've been seeing with the UNESCO Convention that we have created, with the definition of underwater cultural heritage, we have created a category, an amount of heritage that is always expanding on a rate, because every year is the birthday of some shipwrecks or artifacts that are 100 years under the water. So it's constantly growing, but the resources are not growing at the same rate. So I feel in my country, at least, we are creating an unbalanced situation that ends with first class and second class heritage. We don't treat the same all the heritage. And that is something I think we should think about, especially, for instance, considering the metal shipwrecks. Maybe because in the Mediterranean, we don't have such tradition with the metal shipwrecks, and we have a lot of archaeological remains. But here is happening that is the birthday of some shipwrecks and nothing happens for them. If they are still people diving, if there is no control on the diving, it doesn't change. So I've opened that melon, if you want to speak about that.
In fact, I made a work some years ago in Azores, in a metal shipwreck, that unfortunately is not protected as should be, but we have to do our best to keep the information, and it's an important question. So Pedro, if you want to say something.
Right, so let me start by saying that I really enjoy melon, so it will be a good time to discuss it. We have very good melon produced here locally in the Azores, so you're free to visit when the pandemic is over. So I would like we are going to reach the metal ships and the melon, but let me just take a step back, and I forgot to say something before regarding new technologies. Very quickly, I think we need everyone here listening and everyone who has joined us today. I think we need to rethink the notion that we have of the new technologies. They are fundamental, but they are not a means unto themselves. They are just a tool that we have to share these stories. As archaeologists, our main goal, and we cannot forget this, is to be storytellers. So the new technologies are just a part of the story that we're telling. So I totally agree with Carlota when she said, and we need to respect the new technologies, because we cannot look at them like a means unto themselves. So just to reiterate that. On to the convention. Let me first start, before we go to the melon, let me first start by opening a melon of my own, which is this idea that Portugal has a united front regarding underwater cultural heritage. It should have, but it doesn't. It doesn't, and I don't think this will change for a long time, because there's a very regionalized notion of this work, and there is very closed doors idea on some of the Portuguese strategies for underwater cultural heritage. So I can only speak for the Azores, and I can only speak for the reality that I know. When I know that Sonia has worked here, I know that Catarina, who's already left us, has worked here. I know the reality that we have here in the last 20 years, and the reality is. And I was checking up on the convention while Barbara and Carlota were talking, and the reality is that if you start reading the preamble of the convention, what we are doing here, or the strategy that we are looking to apply in the Azores, it fits the preamble one by one. I'm not saying we're doing it 100% well, of course not. It's a work in progress, and we are learning, and we need more funding, and we need more people. But the truth is, 20 years after the convention, the Azores can safely say that they are following this convention and that they are on the front line of it. There is, however, something that Carlota called to the attention, and that I believe we need to understand well, which is the other melon that we have here, which is the idea of these resources not growing side by side with the fact that every year we have more underwater cultural heritage inventory. How do we make this work? I don't have an easy answer. I don't even have a solution. I have more questions than answers. But the truth of the matter is, metal ships, they may not be important for the Mediterranean. And I understand that. It needs to be localized. On the Azores, they are our bread and butter, because they are where we find more solid evidence of underwater archaeological presences. The wooden ships, the galleys, the ships of the new globalization that travel the world in the 15th, 16th, 17th century, they do not survive the Atlantic very well. The Atlantic is not the Mediterranean. The reality here is much different. In the Pacific, it is much different as well. And each reality requires a different approach. What I believe is that the convention, like most legislation and most international law, especially, the convention needs to be rethinked to understand the different realities of the world. And I believe that we should look at the world like an archipelago, where each country is an island and they can work together, but that each island has a different reality. Just like we do it here in the Azores for all 9 islands, I believe that the authorities need to understand this. The UNESCO, the European Union, the United States, and the United Nations, and all of that, they need to understand this. This is the only path forward that we have. We cannot look at the convention as equal to all places. The convention cannot be applied on the Azores as it is applied in Thailand. It cannot be applied in Italy as it is applied in Canada. The realities are different. And this is what I think we need to rethink 20 years later. And I believe metal ships have an important part to play here, as wooden ships have an important part to play in the Mediterranean. And there should never be a hierarchy. There should never be first elitistic heritage and second oral heritage. We need to understand that for each region, heritage have different values, and for each community, they have different values. But they can all work, if we work together in the shared process, there is solutions we can find. I hope I didn't bore anyone. I do love melon.
Thank you, Pedro. So we are 2 hours now. So last question that someone that we call for the name German, please, you have a question. Maybe it's not. Yes, has the word some time ago. Okay. Hello. Just a moment. Okay, now you can hear. Oh no, it's Pedro. You can activate your sound. It's possible. I check. We are not listening. Maybe you can write. Sorry. Pedro.
No, I was just saying that here the symbol, here his symbol shows that he can speak now. But
Yes, maybe it's the micro that's
oh, okay.
working.
I'm terrible with technology.
He's writing the question. Hello? No, it's not working. Sorry. Just I want to ask how to work with politicians as well. You can specify more what you want to. How to work with politicians as well. You mean maybe good practices to deal with politicians?
I can answer if there are many opportunity to be in touch with the politicians at a different level. For example, concerning the Ministry of Culture, for example, we can prepare good practices for a municipality or a regional government that can be used in the planning of underwater cultural heritage museums or trails, for example. This is very useful in our countries, in Italy, or concerning, for example, the national politicians. It's possible to be in touch with them when they are starting to prepare laws for protection or laws for find money to pay to do project on cultural heritage in general. There are some tables in which the expert of the Ministry of Culture can stay and they can give information about the better way to be in touch with underwater cultural heritage. So, and
I think the question is on that sense. It's about the finance, and they wrote to me, the finance, and some of them don't understand the value of the underwater cultural heritage. I think sometimes I see they, as Barbara said, they plan activities. They don't have a real image how to do it, how it costs, and sometimes the money it's not enough, or is sometimes it's very much more money that we need, in fact, but they don't have this, the technical work. It's very important to work with the politicians in this technical work. Sometimes they don't have really idea of the legislation and all these kind of things. Pedro, do you want to say something? We have to finish.
Regarding politicians, I've already talked a bit about it before when I said that we need to push the idea that the archaeology can make money and that they will follow that idea because they usually do. I would say that the best way to have politicians that listen to archaeologists is to elect archaeologists, but you need to have archaeologists in politics to do that. So there's also a problem there. But my experience working with the government, and I've been working for 6 years here, the politicians, they are not the monsters that those outside believe they are. They are human beings and they have flaws, but they also have good qualities. So you need to sit down with them and make them understand the importance of what we're doing, because the importance of what we're doing is no more important than other areas, but it shouldn't be less important than other areas. So you need to make them understand that, and you need to make them understand that this gives money, that the people love this. I am a habitual frequenter of coffee shops and bars and all of that, where the local popular opinion can be felt and you can feel the pulse of the community. And if I sit down and I start talking with anyone from this island about shipwreck or about the stories that connected to them, they will be listening. People love this. So you need to show the politicians that. That's as simple as that. How do you do it? Communicate, make them see the money, treat them like human beings, and I think that's the simple and easy solution.
Okay, thank you. So we have with us now for the closing, Professor António Gomes, that is returned from another meeting to say some words to close our section today. Professor António, just a moment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I think you are hearing me now. I must tell to everybody that firstly, in the beginning of the session, because of a technical problem, it was impossible to me to communicate with you, but I'm sure that with Sonia and with the comments that I'm seeing here, everything was very, very well done. I heard some last words, especially from our colleague Barbara, that talked us about the role of young generation in these questions of heritage, and especially about the underwater heritage. So, in the name of CIDEHUS, our research center, and especially Group 2 that studies particularly the heritage, and to which Sonia belongs from a long time ago, I must thank you all for be here and to share opinions, because digital questions, heritage, archaeology, tourism and sustainability are really words that goes well together, but we must think in a very intelligent way, because heritage is some cultural heritage. It's something very important to our lives and to the lives also of future generations. So to you all, I hope to see you in next occasions. Sonia will certainly make a new event like this one, and in the University of Évora we are really happy, and we congratulate all the communicants, and particularly, excuse me, Sonia. Dear Sonia,
thank
please.
You. Obrigada.
For you all.
Thank you.